All right, so Naveer.
It's Nyla, Coach Nyla, outstandingpersonalrelationships.com.
Well, we had a discussion the other day after watching an episode, what? Three Wives, One Husband. Three Wives, One Husband. Obviously, some Mormons that practice polygyny. And love and loving subsequent wives. The topic of loving subsequent wives had come up where one of the guy's wives felt that he didn't love her as much, or couldn't, like he didn't have the capability to love her as much, right?
Yep, like
because he was married to the other wife first.
For like a long time or whatever. So yeah, he was married to her for like years prior to being married to this other one. And I guess they were looking for, or they were courting, so to speak, another wife. And
oh yeah, that's what it was. He wasn't married to her. He was
courting, courting the other wife or potential wife. And I think they were talking to her, and she said something about on the lines of not knowing if he would love her, how he would love her in comparison or something like that with his other wives, because they have this history and all of that other good stuff. Now, I've heard this before and I felt this before about this comparison thing, and not where it's you got to be at the same level or anything like that, but where it's like, how could he possibly, I got to play catch up, so to speak. Like, how can I possibly gain or garner the same amount or a certain type of love, or how could he ever love me as much as he loves his initial wife or his wives that came before me or anything like that. My gosh, it was broken down so good where I finally understood. When I finally understood it.
I understood what the man was saying. First of all, he was saying that's not an issue. You know, I would love you just as much or whatever. Whatever he said, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? To her, it may have sounded like game, or maybe other women might thought it was some game. Mormon spitting game and stuff, who knows, right? But I knew what he was saying pretty much right away, so I agree with him. I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, I can understand how, even if he's married, if a person is married to a woman 15 years, then decides to enter polygyny, there's no necessarily shortcut or some boost to the front of a line, or like you take all of these 20 years of experience and yep, there's love, yes, there's deepness and intimacy, or at least in healthy, good marriages like we're talking about. There should be that, right?
Right.
But you don't need to build up another 15, 20 years to reach the same level, like it's level 1 love, level 2 love. We're on level 27. You know, it really doesn't work like that. So we discussed it, and she seemed to have an epiphany.
Yeah, because I didn't get it. I mean, I heard it, and he told me that stuff, and I'm like, I still didn't register until we started talking about love for children and things like that. Like, if you have more than one child, does that second child or third child come and say, hey, do you love them? Do you love that child? You know, like, you know, because it seemed like when we see different things on TV or movies, and there's other wives or other people involved, other women involved, the first question that comes out of the wife's mouth is, do you love her? You know, I'm like, like you only have this love for one person or one thing. And I'm like, well, kids don't.
More specifically, that usually, I found that issue usually comes up when there's some type of infidelity or cheating.
Right.
And there's sex that went on, and then one of the excuses a man may make to a woman, just probably because we're built differently, is that, do you love her?
Right.
You know, that's like a very important thing to her. And the guy's just like, nah.
Oh, I love you.
I love you. It was just an act with her. Right. You know, type thing, right? So it wasn't like we were making love. It's like, oh my God, we got caught. Anyway, so that's where that kind of comes up at, where women, you have this question and concern when it comes to love and whether or not they can be loved as much as what some would call the first wife or whatever, subsequent wife, not subsequent wife, whether or not the additional subsequent wife will be able to be loved as much or more than the other wife. So an example, at least that I gave, was, of course, we're talking about children, and your love just expands. It's not some like thing you have to blow up like a balloon. It just goes, all right? So, for example, person has several children. You love the first child like immediately. As soon as you see him, you're in love with the child even before the child is born. Usually, if you're a sane person and a loving individual, don't have some other traumatic issues, but you love your kids for the most part, until they grow up, and then you start to lessen different things that happen. All right, just kidding. But with that being said, I'm the oldest of 6, okay, and as the oldest of 6, every one of my children I love more than my siblings. So in order to help her understand this, go ahead, tell them about the example.
Okay, so yeah, he put that in perspective for me where, okay, I'm the oldest of 9. And, you know, with our kids, he's like, okay, do you love your, you know, you love our kids or one of our children, whatever, more than
our 1-year-old.
Our 1-year-old.
I mean, we've only really known the little man for like, what, 12, like 16 months, right? We've only known him 16 months. Right.
And he was like, do you love him more than you love your brother, who I've known probably like 35 years, right? And I'm like, of course I do. Because that's my baby and everything. But it was like, that's so true. like, and it's not even just with my brother or anything like that. It's other people who've probably been in my life a whole lot longer, but it's just that level of love. Like, my son doesn't have to be in my life. Our children don't have to be in my life for 35 years for me to build up the same amount of love that I have for my brother or my sister or, you know, anybody else. For
right.
That
so it's
matter.
not the time thing that's there, and I really had to dig it in. It wasn't as easy. Like, oh yeah, of course I love him more. It's like, no, I love him. I said, okay, cool. So let's say you faced with a horrible choice, horrible choice, something that likely won't come to pass, but one of them has to die. Sometimes you just have to go in and become extreme for a person to see it. So one of them has to die. Who are you going to choose? Your son or your brother?
Yep.
And she was like, my brother gotta go.
Gotta go.
You know what I'm saying? So, and again, that person, she's known him over 30-some years. I was like, but you've had more experiences with him. You've shared more things. You've been through much more stories than this little puny 16-month-old. I mean, what if it was our 3-year-old? You've only known him 3 years. Like 4 years ago, he didn't even exist. You know what I'm saying?
Dang.
So again, love is not determined by necessarily the amount of time. Yeah, it can be deep and all of that, and it's hard to measure. You really can't measure love, but one thing you know is that at least if you have a healthy relationship, that when you have a spouse or significant other, you're willing to, at least as a man, as a protector, you're willing to die for them. You're willing to put your life on the line. I'm not putting my life on the line for just anybody, but you can, at least me, there's no lock on my heart like, okay, well, I can just measure it out and I'll just love this amount. To get married again, you know, I don't even have any intention to get married again. I'm not interested, even though she keeps wanting to put it out there, but I'm not. So with that being said, if I do get married again, I will likely love her or have another child, love that baby more than I've known people my entire life, all these decades. So it's not something hard to understand, but she didn't really understand. I guess a lot of sisters really have that issue when it comes to, oh, how can you love me as much when he's been with this person X amount of years, or they've experienced X amount of things. And I understand it's legit for them to feel that way, but that's if you measure love based on time, and we really don't do that.
And we don't. Like, even as women, we don't do that. So it's really interesting that we expect our husbands to do the same. So it's crazy.
That's it. Hopefully
it.
that benefited you. And oh, by the way, you know, we've written some different articles and some different blog posts and whatnot for a project that we're leading called OutstandingPersonalRelationships.com. So if you want to connect with us a little bit more there, yay, feel free. I know I'm probably the boring dude. You want to hear more from my wives, and you will, and you know, prayerfully. So reach out. Look forward to speaking with you. Look forward to your feedback. Remember, wish changes nothing, but a decision changes everything.
Be you, be true, be the best you. And until next time, we'll see you soon.
Peace. Salam.